So, where is the true forest of demons? According to ancient texts, an endless pillar of divine light actually manifested in a dense, genuinely terrifying woodland known as Daruka. But if you try to pull out a map right now to pinpoint this legendary forest, well, you're going to hit a fascinating geographical mystery.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into a truly multifaceted exploration of the Nageshwar Jyotirlinga. Nageshwar, which translates to the Lord of Serpents, is renowned as kind of a spiritual detox center. It's said to protect devotees from both physical and spiritual poisons. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this rich tapestry of history, myth, and honestly some stunning architecture surrounding this sacred site.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. First, the location mystery. Then, demon and the devotee. After that, the south-facing miracle, followed by architecture of the divine, and finally, planning your sacred journey. I promise you we are going to connect all these fascinating dots into one cohesive, really amazing virtual pilgrimage.
Okay, Section 1, the location mystery, 3 claimants for the sacred forest.
Right, let's dive right into this. Nageshwar is revered as one of the 12 sacred Jyotirlingas of Lord Shiva in India. But there's this huge, captivating geographical debate over where the true Daruka, that forest of demons from the ancient Puranas, actually is. And what's really interesting here is how 3 totally distinct regions of India lay claim to being the authentic spot, and honestly, they all have compelling textual interpretations to back them up. First up, we've got Anda Nagnath down in Maharashtra. This is actually the oldest of the temples. Its current structure dates back to the 13th century, and the legend goes that the original was built by the eldest Pandava, Yudhishthira, while he was exiled in a rather scary forest. Then you have the Nageshwar temple near Dwarka in Gujarat. This one sits right on the seashore, which, as we'll see in a minute, aligns perfectly with a specific part of the myth. And the third claimant? That's the Jageshwar temple up in Uttarakhand. Their claim takes more of a linguistic approach. You see, Daruka can also translate to a forest of deodar trees, and Jageshwar sits peacefully right in the middle of exactly that kind of forest. Now, we aren't here to play favorites or decide which one is the true Jyotirlinga. Instead, we're just going to impartially appreciate how faith has anchored itself so beautifully across these 3 completely different landscapes.
Moving on to Section 2, Demon and the Devotee, the epic of Daruka and Supriya.
For this next part, we're going to focus our lens on the foundational mythology that's specifically tied to the Nageshwar temple located in Dwarka, Gujarat. Let's trace the epic story of Daruka and Supriya. It starts with this fearsome demon, Daruka. He and his wife received some incredibly powerful boons and, well, they used them to terrorize innocents and hermits living in the dense forest. When the gods finally tried to step in and stop them, Daruka used a special boon to literally lift the entire forest, roots and all, and drop it squarely in the middle of the sea, which, by the way, perfectly explains the coastal location of the Dwarka temple. But even out at sea, the terror didn't stop. Daruka imprisoned a merchant named Supriya. Supriya, however, was an absolutely unwavering devotee. Even locked away in a dungeon, he kept his Rudraksha beads on, applied his holy ash, and just kept chanting Om Namah Shivaya. He even inspired all the other prisoners to join in. Deeply moved by this pure, unbreakable devotion, Lord Shiva actually manifested in his divine form to vanquish the demons, and he left behind the Jyotirlinga as an eternal symbol of his presence. It's an amazing story, and it brilliantly illustrates exactly why this site is believed to grant its visitors freedom from fear.
Section 3, the south-facing miracle, a devotee's direction.
Now, Nageshwar obviously holds incredible spiritual power, but it also has a really fascinating geographical quirk that totally defies standard temple norms, and it traces back to this legendary moment in its history. Saint Namdev, who was deeply immersed in his devotion, was sitting and singing bhajans right in front of the deity. A group of other devotees, who were probably pretty annoyed because they felt he was blocking their view, angrily demanded that he move aside. Namdev didn't get mad, though. He just calmly responded with this profound theological challenge. He said, "Show me one direction where Lord Shiva doesn't exist."
Well, the frustrated devotees weren't having it. They physically dragged Saint Namdev away and dumped him on the southern side of the temple, figuring that that would solve the problem once and for all. But according to the legend, the Shiva Linga miraculously turned completely on its own. It shifted to face south, looking directly toward Namdev. And that right there is exactly why, to this very day, the Jyotirlinga at Nageshwar uniquely faces south. It's literally a lasting monument to the sheer power of pure devotion.
All right, Section 4, Architecture of the Divine, the Body in Stone.
This is where things get really fascinating. The architecture of the Nageshwar temple isn't just a bunch of stone blocks.
It's an absolute marvel of ancient science and design. The entire temple layout is essentially a human body carved in stone. It was designed strictly following Vastu Shastra principles, reflecting the Sayanam or sleeping posture. So as you walk through the temple complex, you are symbolically walking through the divine anatomy. The main entrance, the Mahadwar, represents the feet. Move a bit further to the entry's porch, flanked by holy idols, and that symbolizes the hands. The Sabha Mandapa, which is the main prayer hall, corresponds to the chest and abdomen. And finally, the Garbhagriha, the inner sanctum where the deity actually resides, represents the head. I mean, how breathtakingly immersive is that?
Now I want to throw a number at you. 5. Why 5? Because it represents a staggering archaeological discovery. The current 20th century temple that you see today is actually built on top of incredibly ancient foundations. In fact, excavations suggest that there are 5 earlier buried cities laying straight beneath the current structure. It's like a giant historical layer cake, showing just how enduring this sacred spot has been over millennia, surviving both massive coastal erosion and historical invasions.
And here's another number, 2. This represents the depth of the sanctum itself. The actual Garbhagriha is located exactly 2 feet underground. It doesn't sound like much, but when you physically step down those 2 feet to approach the Jyotirlinga, you can immediately feel a very distinct drop in temperature and a profound, palpable shift in the energy of the space.
Resting down in that underground sanctum is the Shiva Linga itself, and let me tell you, it is entirely unique. It's carved from a special local stone called Dwarka Shila, but more importantly, it's shaped exactly like a Trimuhi, or three-faced Rudraksha bead. This visually links us right back to our merchant devotee, Supriya, who used his Rudraksha beads for protection back in the demon's prison. Those 3 faces represent fire, the past, present, and future, and ultimately, absolute freedom from karma.
Dominating the whole temple complex today is this massive, awe-inspiring statue of Lord Shiva in a meditative posture, towering exactly 25 meters. That's roughly 82 feet into the air. But there's a catch. Because this temple sits so close to the Arabian Sea, it gets battered by intense coastal winds and heavy salt erosion. So to combat this, modern engineers teamed up with traditional Sampura salats, and they did something brilliant. They built the statue using porous Porbandar sandstone, which naturally resists salt erosion. Then, they anchored the whole thing with a massive, modern RCC raft foundation just to make absolutely sure it survives those high sea winds. It's a perfect blend of ancient tradition and modern engineering.
Section 5. Planning your sacred journey, the ultimate one-day itinerary. So, we've explored the myths, we've marveled at the architecture. Now let's pivot to something super practical. If you're feeling inspired to make the trip yourself, the absolute most important number for your logistics is 17. The Nageshwar temple is merely 17 kilometers away from the main city of Dwarka. That means it only takes about 25 to 30 minutes by taxi or auto rickshaw to get there. It makes integrating this Jyotirlinga into a wider Dwarka trip incredibly accessible. You can easily knock this out in just a half day.
The real trick here is just organizing your time efficiently. So here's the ultimate, tried and true one-day itinerary. Start your day bright and early. We're talking 6 a.m. in Dwarka City for the Mangala Arti at the Dwarkadish Temple. Once you wrap up there, grab a quick breakfast and jump in a cab for that 30-minute drive. You're going to pull up to Nageshwar right around 8 a.m. This is the absolute sweet spot. It's the perfect time for darshan and to witness the Abhishek Puja before the massive tour buses roll in. After that, since you're already out on that route, spend your afternoon continuing just a bit further up the coast. You can take a scenic boat ride over to Bet Dwarka, which is the island widely believed to be Lord Krishna's ancient residence. Now, to make sure that itinerary goes off without a hitch, keep a few quick travel tips in your back pocket. Your best bet is definitely to book budget hotels or traditional dharmshalas located right within 500 meters of the Dwarkadish temple. That way, you can literally just roll out of bed and walk to that 6 a.m. Arti. And because this is such a major pilgrimage route, especially around festivals like Mahashivratri or during the Shravan month, you absolutely want to use platforms like Booking.com to lock in your accommodations well in advance. As for when to go, the weather is by far the most pleasant from October through March. And I'll say it again, morning darshan is the single best way to experience the serenity of the temple without sweating through the midday heat or fighting through heavy crowds.
Well, we started this explainer by exploring how three totally different regions of India, the ancient scary forest of Maharashtra, the breezy coastal shores of Gujarat, and the towering deodar trees up in Uttarakhand, all fiercely point toward the profound legend of the Daruka forest. We've walked through the epic myth, we've explored the incredible anatomy-inspired architecture, and we even mapped out exactly how to get there. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought to chew on. If you were packing your bags right now to start your own pilgrimage and solve this ancient mystery for yourself, which of the three contested Jyotirlinga locations would you visit first?